Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to explore the invisible, microscopic world that literally forms the foundation of all life on Earth. Every living thing you've ever seen, from the tiniest bacteria under a microscope to the absolute largest blue whale in the ocean, and yeah, even you, is made up of cells. The sheer contrast between this invisible, microscopic foundation and the massive, macroscopic creatures walking around our planet is just staggering. They are the ultimate structural and functional units of life, working tirelessly behind the scenes to keep organisms not just surviving, but thriving.
Okay, let's dive into this with a number that is honestly just kind of hard to wrap your head around. 37 trillion. That is the approximate number of individual cells in the human body. Think about that for a second. Right now, at this very moment, you have roughly 37 trillion microscopic machines working in perfect harmony just to keep you alive, breathing, and comprehending the words I'm saying to you. It's an absolute biological marvel.
To figure out how all of this works, we're going to take a quick 6-part tour. Building blocks, two worlds, the city tour, plant versus animal, border control, and finally, the big picture. All right, let's kick things off with section 1, building blocks.
So, our understanding of all this didn't just happen overnight. It evolved from Robert Hooke first spotting cells in 1665, all the way to Rudolf Virchow expanding on things in 1855, which ultimately gave us the cell theory. You can basically think of these principles as the laws of physics for biology. All living things are made of cells, the cell is the most basic functional unit of life, and, this is a big one, every new cell has to come from a pre-existing cell.
Moving right along to section 2, two worlds.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how life essentially splits into two totally different camps. On one side, we have prokaryotes. These are your scrappy, simple, free-floating single cells, like bacteria and archaea. Then, on the other side, you've got eukaryotes, the big leagues. These are highly structured, complex setups with true nuclei and specialized organelles. They're the ones making up plants, animals, and of course, us.
Which brings us to section 3, the city tour.
You can really think of a eukaryotic cell as this bustling, microscopic metropolis. And our very first stop on the tour? City Hall, aka the nucleus. This is the absolute control center of the cell. Tucked safely inside, protected by a nuclear membrane and floating in nucleoplasm, are the chromosomes. That's where your DNA is securely stored. From this central hub, the nucleus controls the whole shebang. It directs growth, manages reproduction, and literally sends out the orders for protein production.
Next up is the mitochondria. And yeah, I know, it's the legendary powerhouse of the cell from your middle school science nightmares. But jokes aside, this thing is an incredibly efficient power plant. Through a process called cellular respiration, mitochondria churn out energy in the form of a molecule called ATP. This ATP is basically the energetic currency that pays for the entire cellular system to keep running day and night.
From the power plant, let's head over to the manufacturing district. Ribosomes are like these microscopic factories just churning out proteins, and they're often docked right on the rough endoplasmic reticulum, or rough ER, for immediate transport. Right next door is the smooth ER. It doesn't have ribosomes attached, so it looks smooth. Its job is to produce lipids, store calcium, and handle the super crucial task of detoxifying the cell.
Of course, once products are manufactured, they have to ship out, right? And this brilliantly illustrates the role of the Golgi apparatus. It's exactly like the central post office of our cellular city. It modifies, neatly packages, and routes materials with incredible precision, sending substances exactly where they need to go, whether that's just down the street to another part of the cell or shipped outside of it entirely.
Finally, every city needs sanitation and storage. Lysosomes act as the recycling centers. They digest food particles, break down worn-out organelle parts, and even destroy invading bacteria to keep the city clean and safe. In fact, when lysosomes start failing, cellular garbage builds up, which is actually a major driver of human aging. Meanwhile, vacuoles are the essential storage warehouses, safely holding on to water, nutrients, and waste products until the cell is ready to deal with them.
All right, section 4, plant versus animal.
So, while both plant and animal cells are eukaryotic, their architecture totally reflects their lifestyles. Think about it. Plants are stationary and they make their own food. So they evolve these rigid cell walls for structural support and chloroplasts packed with chlorophyll for photosynthesis. Animals, on the other hand, need to move. So our cells are rounder, much more flexible, and we use centrioles to help with cell division. Plants also typically rely on one massive central vacuole to maintain internal pressure and store water, whereas animal cells just use a few smaller ones.
Up next, section 5, border control.
because a cell definitely isn't an isolated fortress. It constantly needs to trade and exchange materials with the outside world across its selectively permeable membrane. Things like passive transport, so diffusion and osmosis, are super easy. Materials just drift down the concentration gradient from high to low, basically for free. So the crucial point here is how active transport differs. To push materials against the current, from low to high concentration, the cell actually has to pay a biological tax. It spends its hard-earned ATP energy to force those materials across the border.
And that brings us to our final stop, Section 6, the big picture.
When we finally zoom out from the organelles, the sheer diversity of these cells is just staggering. For example, the human egg cell is the body's largest cell, while the sperm is among the absolute smallest. Mature red blood cells, they actually intentionally eject their own nucleus just so they can pack in more oxygen for you. And some of your nerve cells aren't just microscopic dots. They can literally extend over an entire meter in length inside an adult body. The specialization of these microscopic machines is wild.
Ultimately, these cells are the unsung heroes of our entire existence. They're responsible for everything: growing your tissues, healing your scrapes, fighting off diseases, building muscles, and sending the exact nerve signals to your brain so you can understand this explainer today. It boils down to a very simple truth. Without cells, life simply would not exist.
So take a second to just think about the immense, beautifully complex biology happening right beneath your skin. If 37 trillion microscopic cities are working flawlessly inside you right now, synthesizing proteins, breaking down waste, and generating all that ATP, what will you do with the energy they create today? It's a pretty remarkable piece of biological machinery you possess, so make it count. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.